Hello everyone, it's Linda Ockwell-Jenner here again with another SBCN Small Biz Perspectives, and I'm here with my very good friend Steve Bentley from Northern River Financial.
How are you this evening?
Well, Steve, I'm feeling really good because yesterday it was snowing and today it's not snowing, so I'm hoping for a really nice rest of the week.
Oh, I'm pushing into spring. You know, something I'm talking about with a lot of my northern buddies is when's the ice going to be out of the lake so we can get the canoes in the water. So there's a big debate and there's actually a contest going on. We're picking dates. So I'm looking forward to spring, really. Well,
our pond is frozen over, if that counts. No little critters can die in there. I've had a challenging couple of weeks, and the topic I want to talk about tonight is ignorance. And I received this message. I'm not going to say how I received the message, but the message was sent to probably 100 other people. And everybody got the same message. And why I think that's very impersonal and kind of is a little bit ignorant to me, we were all asked to do something that may help us. And the reason I know it was sent to a lot of people I know is because, did you get this message? Did you get the message? So I said, yeah. So basically, when you're in business and you are looking for clients, I think we all want to feel special. What do you think, Steve? We want to make our clients have a really good experience and make them feel that it's all about them. Would you agree?
I think every client needs to feel that there's a personal relationship with the person that they're dealing with, right? And I think there's a lot of ignorance in communication, because sometimes you need to have that direct one-on-one communication with somebody as opposed to thinking, well, I've got this great idea, I'm going to send it out to a bunch of people and get their feedback on something.
Yeah.
Well, some people can take that impersonally, right? Yeah, because sometimes you don't even know what they're talking about. You don't know what you're supposed to respond and how you're supposed to respond. Well, and in some cases, you feel it should be more of a personal communication than just like a broadcast.
Well, I can't remember the exact definition for ignorance, but it's kind of a lack of knowledge, but a lack of wanting to be aware and find out something. So in this case, this person was offering, let's say, 100 people help. Now, 100 people don't all need the same help, unless they're all drowning in the water and he's throwing them a life jacket. So when we're in business, we all need different kinds of help. And I was kind of insulted because you can't help somebody unless you know what kind of help they want. It's called a solution in business terms.
Yes.
And I guess it's not just that person. A lot of people do this, Steve. They'll send you emails and go, hey, I've checked out your website and I think I could do better. Well, it's very ignorant and rude of them because, first of all, if they really checked out my website, they would know it's amazing, both of my websites. So I think when people are ignorant in business, there's many, many reasons they are. So here's a couple of things. When I talk to my clients sometimes and I say that, it would be a good idea if you had an online presence, and they say, I don't want an online presence, it's not going to help me. And I point them in the direction of, researching why they need an online presence, but they don't choose to research it. That is a form of ignorance. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's perceived ignorance, right? Because how can you judge something if you don't know anything about it, right?
Thank you.
I think if I'm ever looking at a topic, I'm not going to say I agree with it, I don't agree with it, it will or will not work for me until I've spent some time really understanding what it is. And you know what? Reasonably, there may be some businesses where a social presence, it depends on the nature of the business and the relationship. But 90% of businesses need to have some kind of presence. And so they need to find out what works for them, and to just pass it off and say, well, I don't need that. Well, that to me is ignorance.
If they're paying a consultant, me or you, to help them, and they don't understand the help that we're offering them, it's their loss. I see it a lot in the corporate world. I really do, in the sense that they hire really talented people to do work, and then they don't believe, that they know what they're doing is correct. Do you know what I'm trying to say? They will actually get consultants in to tell the organisation what they should be doing right, and then there's no team spirit, and there's a lot of lack of motivation because basically the bosses are ignorant of what their guys or girls can do. And I'm getting a little bit fed up with this in this modern world. Is it because we're all so looking in front of the screen and we don't really interact with anybody as much anymore to understand that we may be acting in an ignorant way?
Well, I come from a consulting background, and the thing you've got to really get to know is the people you're working for, because if you don't have that connect, then it doesn't matter what you say, because they're not necessarily going to believe you because they haven't bought into the process, right? You have to establish that value. You have to establish what are the points that we need to accomplish in order to make sure that what we're trying to put across is going to be successfully received. So I think that's a challenge. And so, for people who go out there and you talk about developing relationships, I mean, you don't do it by going out and just sending out a broadcast email or doing something so impersonal. You have to find out, if you're going to say I can help you, what it is that you need help with. And maybe I can, maybe I can't. Like when we get engaging with clients, as you said, earlier in another podcast, there's some times where we won't necessarily work with a client because we don't see the fit.
Yeah.
But you can't be ignorant just to assume without actually taking some time and doing a little bit of soul searching, a little bit of reflection, a little bit of research to understand if there is that topic you want to talk to somebody about. Well, you need to know how it applies to them, right? So saying, well, yeah, I can fix your website. Well, you probably haven't even looked at my website. You're just sending an email out saying, I can help you. Well, you don't know what I need. You don't even know if I need any help, right? Well, that's a waste of time.
I think
it's better to focus than just to do it on a broad basis.
Also, I network a lot on the social sweetheart. When I've met someone and then they have looked at, my website or my online presence, and then they offer me the kind of help that I really don't need, that is the most frustrating and ignorant thing. It's as if, did they really, look at my online presence? Did they really look? What about the press today? It's it is though, isn't it? I mean, is it a form of ignorance, all this false news, all this bad stuff that's going on? Or is it, what did you say? You used a really good word for it. They're doing it on purpose, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, I really am at a point, and of course my son is a journalist, and he graduated in journalism. And he says it himself. He said, there's so many people that are reading news that's not news. It's a leader to a sales proposition, right? So, and a big example right now is people say all these sensational stories about stars and things going on in the world, and they blow into it, and it's just a loss leader. It really is to get people to focus on some kind of product they want to sell to somebody, or, here's the problem, but we've got the solution, but we fabricated the problem in order to be able to offer you that solution. So that is the one part of it. The second part of it is and I think Dan Rather did an interview with Sean Haggerty from Fox a couple of weeks ago. And he basically talked about, is it really news that you're doing, or is it sensationalism, right? And you see it on CNN where they're just going forward and all they do is talk about one particular president in the South, right? Yeah. Where did the news go? Where did the unbiased reporting go? So those are real challenges.
Is this a form of ignorance, though? Are they being ignorant of the public's need? Do they even care what we need to know?
No, you know what? Negative news sells, and all they're caring about is what's going to attract the viewers. And so they can have the commercial time to push commercials on people, right? That's sad. That's sad.
It is, but I mean, in business in particular, have you come across the word, I wrote about it today, and I can't exactly remember what I wrote now. I even put the real definition of ignorance, and it's amazing. There's the people who say, but we've always done it this way. That's not a perceived ignorance, is it? What would you call that?
I call it a form of ignorance because they're not opening their mind to maybe the ways they can do things better. Maybe they're doing things well, but I think everybody can improve, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we shouldn't just shutter ourselves and say, well, this is the only way we're doing it because this is the way we've been doing it. Guess what? Everything around you is changing, right? So if your business isn't changing, you're going to have problems at some point, right? So you need to be looking and exploring. So I think that is a form of ignorance because they're so closed-minded.
And what about communication? I think we all tend to be a little bit ignorant in our communication. We may fire off a text, not wait for the reply. We may misread the text, mightn't we, or we may leave a voice message. I think communication today makes us appear ignorant to many people, but it could be a misunderstanding maybe.
Well, I think people in today's instant world that we live in, they don't take time to think about a message or to think about an email. They just fire it out there, right? And the sense of urgency, I mean, just because I send you a text message this afternoon doesn't mean I expect to have a response within 10 minutes, right? We've all got lives going on, and we're going to respond to those in the time we allocate for that or when we're ready to it. I had that conversation with somebody. Sometimes you got to set those expectations about, if somebody's waiting on information for you, they don't know what you're waiting on. And if they don't hear from you for a while, then they're going to turn around and think, well, you're not responding. But really all you need to do in the beginning is saying, well, it's going to take me some time. Yeah. Here's when I hope to get back to you, right? So you set that expectation. You have to do that with clients too.
I think for me, what really set me off was having this message that I know went to lots of other people offering me certain things I didn't need. So it was a perceived, expectation. I would jump for joy. And then when I struck up a conversation with the person, they kind of, thought that I was the one in the wrong because I should. Yeah, I know. And to me, it's very ignorant when you're not listening to another person's point of view. I've got this stuck in my head now. Why is everybody?
That's okay. I mean, your one avenue,
ignorant.
Your one avenue is to write about it today, right? Because it's on your mind, and then you wanted to share that, right?
That is a way for me to get it out of my head and to advise other people not to be ignorant to me. It's tough in business. It's really tough in business. I think the winners are people like you and I who communicate well and don't go around. So we've got a coffee, SBCN Coffee Connect coming up tomorrow. It's a free event we're hosting every week now, the SBCN, with the help of my friend Mark Benkovic. He's absolutely amazing. And a lot of people are quite amazed that we're not asking them to register for it. But to be completely honest, I'll be kicking a dead horse. I don't know what the saying is, because getting people to register for regular events, what they have to pay for, is really difficult. And that's ignorant when they just turn up at your event where you've asked them to register. They go, oh, we didn't know we had to register. Can we just turn up? And you've got a full house. So we don't ask people to register for our free event that's every week, and people are quite surprised. So you can't win, can you? You just can't win.
No, but I think it depends on the event, right? I mean, you're very clear for the Coffee Connect to say it's just an open house. Come on in. Come in for 10 minutes, come in for 2 hours, whatever it is.
And it's less stress.
And I think it's easier for them to do that because it fits within their schedule easily. But what people fail to realize, you ask them to do a small task like registering, and I know I've been guilty on occasion of registering, but it's important for you because you need to know how many people are expected. You need to be able to plan your event properly. Yeah. And unless we register, so you have that number, it's not easy to do.
And what I've found is, it's okay if it's happening to you, Steve, but if it's happening to somebody else, then how can you be so ignorant? How couldn't you do this? How can you do that? So that was my favourite word for today. And then I even found the definition, like I say, but I can't remember all of it, but I know it's to do with lack of wanting to do something, lack of wanting to find out more and be more aware. And I think, I tried very hard. Received an email today, I don't know whether you saw it, and it was a spam. Mm-hmm. And basically it said, we're going to be doing some work on your server, so click on this link. And so I just copied and pasted it and put it everywhere I could to make people aware of it, because I find if they clicked on it and something bad happened, then I would have felt guilty. But I could have left them all in ignorance and they could have got this email and not been any the wiser.
Well, we know so many people that have fallen victims to things. And I think, like the CRA scam that's going on right now, what people are preying on is people's fear, right? And so they think that's what they got to do, and they think it's genuine, but they're not thinking. They need to actually find a way to verify that what they're seeing is absolutely true, right? Or that, there's so many things that come in and you really don't know if it's spam or not. It's so close, right?
It's another form of being ignorant without really knowing. It's a different kind of ignorance. But there again, it's plastered in the newspapers, it's on the TV, it's on the radio, it's on social media. So today we should be more aware of what's going on and not be ignorant to the news or the awareness. So it's a weird word. It's got a lot of connotations, hasn't it?
Well, I think the other thing, too, is the ignorance is a perceived lack of understanding or taking the time to understand something. So it isn't necessarily a negative with some people. It's just that they haven't taken that time to understand whatever that is or whatever that task is or whatever that conversation's about, as opposed to maybe taking a step back and maybe thinking about it, right? We're so impulsive. We just react but we don't always think. And I think that sometimes people need to take a step back and pause and
Well,
do
I think for anybody who's in business today, I think we have to educate ourselves. We have to be aware. And if we show ignorance to our clients in the sense that, oh, I didn't know that new software was out, and they go, well, you're my IT person. If you don't know this, I maybe go and get it. So ignorance has a lot of connotations, and I've got it out of my system now. It's gone. It's done. I'm never gonna talk about it again. But all these things we talk about are real, live things, situations we may have been in that small business owners or anybody who's listening can take a tip from us and say, that's a good thing to do. That's not a good thing to do. Or they can just ignore us.
Well, I think one of the things we're trying to do with Small Biz Perspective is each of us go through a week, and we do these, weekly on a basis where we encounter things like all of a sudden, however it popped up to your head, the concept of ignorance. Okay, so talking about something that's fresh of your mind, and it sort of gives the people, a little bit of feedback to say, hey, you know what? There's some validity in some of those things, and I encounter that on a daily basis. So maybe there's some different ways to look at it.
Yeah. We are saying the things that we've never been brave enough to say before, and I think we're doing people a favour.
I like to think so. I think it's fresh of mind too. So it's exciting, and I get we both get a little bit excited when we have these conversations because it's really current. And we see a lot of people struggling with some of these concepts. And sometimes, for me, it's just a question of, like you said, writing about it or talking to somebody about it.
Yeah, and I think that's why people like us, because we are real people with real situations, real challenges, and we're not scared to talk about them. And if we fail at something, it's an experience we can pass on to someone else. So I think, really, this is a good way to go with our small biz perspectives. Do you, Steve?
I do. I think that's what we sort of thought of when we started it, and I think we're seeing some success for it. And I thought I'd like to continue it this way.
Well, okay, then we'll continue with another one next week. And thank you again for taking time out of your busy day. Are you heading north? Did you say again the end of the week?
That's the plan, unless snow comes our way, and the spring's supposed to be here. I don't want to go up and deal with snow and cold. But
are you kidding me? You live up north.
I know, but for me. That's the plan at this point, yes.
Yeah. Well, this will be our first weekend where we haven't got any social engagements or anything going on. So we're going to be playing catch-up as normal. We're boring.
You never stop doing something. You're always busy.
Part of being in business. So thanks again, Steve, and we'll see you again next week.
All right, take care.
Bye.